Coming up this week, Anthropic's Claude comes to Chrome, the world goes bananas for Google's new image editing model, all the latest insights from the Generative AI Apps report, and why one company is reevaluating its AI strategy after its users started to troll it. Stay tuned for all of that and more, and if you enjoy the briefing, hit the subscribe and the like button. So first up this week, Anthropic has released a preview of Claude for Chrome, a new Chrome extension where users can instruct Claude to take actions on their behalf in the browser. Anthropic says that during its early beta tests with around 1,000 users, so far people are using the extension for tasks like managing their calendars, scheduling meetings, drafting email responses, and one use case that could be particularly interesting for product teams, which is testing new website features. But Anthropic says that it's focusing heavily on security before a wider rollout, citing one example of a case picked up during testing where a malicious email encouraged the Claude browser agent to delete a bunch of emails, which the agent did without the user's permission. The release shows that Anthropic clearly sees the browser as the key battleground for practical AI use cases, but unlike Perplexity, Microsoft, Google, and OpenAI, it looks as though Anthropic won't be attempting to build a browser of their own. And speaking of Perplexity, this week they shipped some simple but friction-reducing new UI updates to their mobile app. This includes new animations for voice interactions, a new default state when you open the app which opens the keyboard by default, and the ability to swipe between search and discovery. Speaking on X, Perplexity's head of design, Gunnar Gray, described the changes as a more refined and focused experience. Now, I'd love it when product teams take the time to roll out these types of refinements, and it does appear that a bit of a split is now emerging between the idea of quick and disposable apps and carefully crafted high-quality products. On one end of the spectrum, VCs like Andreessen Horowitz's Anish Akara says we're entering the era of disposable software, and Sam Altman describes this as the fast fashion era of SaaS. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have companies like Linear and Perplexity who are doubling down on craft and quality. Personally, I'd always rather use a product that's been crafted with love, care, and attention, but I can see the appeal of quick and disposable software too. Elsewhere this week, it has been widely noted that Duolingo is now using AI to generate the bulk of its language learning lesson content, and despite some early complaints from users, this has actually led to an increase in daily active users and engagement. And it looks as though Google has taken notice of this. This week, Google unveiled a new feature in Google Translate that will not only translate content but also teach you languages. Powered by Gemini, this new feature will create lessons based on your skill level and purpose for learning a new language, such as vacationing in a different country. But the big release from Google this week is the impressive update to its image editing model with the release of Gemini 2.5 Flash, also known as Nano Banana. The model produces higher quality images than previous models, allows you to blend multiple images into a single image, and integrates Gemini's knowledge of the world. Google says that this means it can understand simple hand drawings and make edits of those, which could be helpful for things like sketching prototypes. Here's some samples of that in action. Google has also announced that one of its core products, Vids, is getting lifelike avatars that could be super helpful for things like product demos. Users can type the script they want to use, and Vids will generate a lifelike avatar of the content. Vids is now available for free to all workspace users, which Google will be hoping will drive up engagement of the tool. And if you're interested in learning more about how companies are driving engagement and retention, then check out the latest deep dive over on Substack. In this deep dive, I explore a bunch of new tactics that companies like Figma, Reddit, Instacart, Replit, Instagram, and more are using to drive engagement and retention. The other new piece on Substack this week is a new knowledge series where I take a look at how you can use Claude Code for non-engineering tasks. This is specifically designed for product managers, designers, and anyone else who wants to learn how to use Claude Code for things like creating AI agents for PRDs, organizing their local files and editing spreadsheets, and performing SEO audits. So if you've heard a lot about Claude Code, but you're not an engineer and would like to experiment with some hands-on ways to do it, then check that one out. Elsewhere this week, Microsoft is launching its own in-house AI models for the first time. The models are called MAI Voice 1 AI and MAI 1 Preview. Now, they are a bit of a mouthful, but the company says that the new speech model can generate a minute's worth of audio in under 1 second, while MAI 1 Preview offers a glimpse of future offerings inside Copilot. You can try MA1 Voice 1 out for yourself on Copilot Labs, where you can enter what you want the AI model to say as well as change the voice and style of speaking. So here's a sample of it in action.
Hi there. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for tuning into the Department of Product YouTube channel. It really means the world to us. So I'm just curious, does 11 Labs really have a competitive moat now that I've stepped onto the scene? I mean, isn't that an exciting thought?
Microsoft says that they have big ambitions for where they want to go next, and that there will be a lot more to come from this team on both fronts in the near future. Now let's take a look at some tools you can use. And the first product this week is something called Artificial Societies, which is a Y Combinator startup that this week raised $5.3 million in seed funding. Now, Artificial Societies lets you run rapid audience experiments and test new product concepts with artificial users or artificial societies. So for example, if you have a new feature that you're planning on building and you'd like to target a specific user segment, you can run some simulations to figure out how your customers might respond to that new feature. So it seems to be a really solid companion for the product discovery process. Not only that, but it also allows you to run tests of how specific pieces of content might perform. So if you were creating some release notes or a social media post to complement the new feature, then you could run some simulations to figure out how customers might respond to that. So if you're looking for new ways to get quick feedback for potential new features that you're building, then check out Artificial Societies. Next is a new competitor to the likes of Intercom, and this company is Pylon. And it works by consolidating multiple different support channels from the likes of Slack, Teams, and others all into one place. Not only that, but it automatically identifies knowledge gaps based on conversations with real customers, and it will then generate help articles that can be shared with customers to prevent that issue from coming up again. So if you're looking for new ways to manage customers and you want an alternative to the likes of Intercom, then check out Pylon. And the final product for this week is something called AI Thing. Now, aside from the fact that I really like the name AI Thing, this does look like a really handy little tool that you can use across your operating system. So the way this works is it allows you to create AI agents that work on your desktop and interact with tools like Notion, Google Workspace, GitHub, and others. So for example, you can ask AI Thing to find all the users in a Google Sheet with the same profession and then send them an email. You can choose which AI models you want to power your tasks. And right now it connects with Google Workspace, GitHub, Notion, and Slack, and it has the ability to add your own AI agents as well. So if you're looking for a new way to boost your productivity across your operating system, then check out AI Thing. Now let's take a look at some data and trends for the week. And this week saw the release of the top 100 generative AI consumer apps from Andreessen Horowitz. And this is the 5th edition of the report, which reflects 2.5 years of data on how everyday AI usage is evolving. And here's some takeaways that I thought was quite interesting. Firstly, ChatGPT, unsurprisingly, still leads on mobile, but Gemini is closing the gap and now has nearly half as many monthly active users as ChatGPT. Google's Notebook LM is slowly declining after peaking in April. So as you can see in this chart, after peaking earlier this year, it's now starting to decline slightly. Now this may just be seasonal, but let's see. And if we look at how Notebook LM compares to other Google products, you can see that by far Gemini is the biggest consumer product, but Google's AI Studio has now overtaken Notebook LM. Elsewhere in the report, it shows that Grok's new companion feature seems to be driving daily active user engagement, which if so, may mean that other AI apps might follow suit, but it's unlikely they'll be as bombastic or controversial as Grok's, which in itself may be a big driver of retention. And the last section that I thought was quite interesting was the section on vibe coding apps. And you can see that vibe coding site traffic is down from highs reached in June, but this may also just be seasonality. Retention for these apps, on the other hand, is looking pretty good. So in this chart, you can see that early revenue retention shows it peaking above 100% in the first 3 months, but then slowly dropping in month 4. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves over the coming months. And if you're interested in the full report, that's available over on Andreessen Horowitz. Another report worth looking at this week is Anthropic's latest threat intelligence report. And this report looks at how AI is being misused. So in this report, it revealed that North Korean operatives have been systematically using Claude to secure and to maintain fraudulent jobs in tech companies. The report then breaks down the types of activities that these fraudulent actors were performing with AI. And you can see that 61% of AI activity in Claude was used for front-end development, 26% was for scripting, 10% for interview prep, and 3% for back-end development. So you could conclude from this that front-end development is most susceptible to fraudulent AI activity. But using AI in software engineering is showing no signs of stopping. This week, payments company Block said that its AI agent framework GOOSE is now used by over 4,000 engineers, with adoption of the tool doubling monthly. They say that GOOSE now writes about 90% of code for its users and has saved its engineers an estimated 10 hours of work per week. But not everyone is benefiting from the adoption of AI in coding, with a new piece of analysis in the Wall Street Journal this week showing that junior developers are struggling. In this piece, it showed that among software developers aged 22 to 25, the headcount for that group was nearly 20% lower in 2025 compared to its peak in 2022. Now, to be fair, this report uses October 2022 as its 100 index, which was pretty much the peak of the overhiring craze after the pandemic. And finally this week, Taco Bell's CTO has confirmed that AI-powered voice drive-thrus have now processed more than 2 million orders, but customers have reported glitches, delays, and some have even intentionally trolled the AI with absurd orders like 18,000 cups of water, please. The CTO said, "We're learning a lot about this, I'm going to be honest with you. And as a result of the trolling, they're now reassessing when and where to use AI across their store locations." This week, I also saw a video of some guy shouting at ChatGPT's app when it refused to count to 1 million. So I wonder if this pattern of intentionally bullying or trolling AI in this way may become a strange new form of entertainment. Strange times indeed. And on that note, I'll leave it there for this week. Thanks very much for listening and watching. I'll be back next week with another briefing.